Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com. Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grillin' JR with the voice of wrestling, the one and only Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm great, Connie. Couldn't be better. Happy holidays to everybody. Hope you're enjoying the holiday season. I got big plans for Saturday. I'm going over to see my children in Tulsa, and my two granddaughters. So it's a nice little trip and take some Christmas gifts to them. And I don't think they listen to the show. But I got them a neat deal on, I got them some cookware, both my daughters' cookware, the stainless steel cookware.
Yeah.
And, of course, you know, the ever ubiquitous cash. People love cash.
Yes, they do.
And, you know, the thing about it, at my stage of life, Conrad, trying to select the perfect gift for a 16-year-old granddaughter or a 12-year-old granddaughter is somewhat daunting.
Sure.
And I don't want to see that look of disappointment on their face trying to fake me out. So I just get them prepaid credit cards. Buy what the hell you want and enjoy it from Grandpa. Thank you very much. So it's a good time of the year. And we're doing great business at our little website, jrsbbq.com, where we ship out orders the same day we get them more often than not. So if you're looking to buy something for Christmas, some nice sauce, ketchup, mustard, jerky, whatever, seasoning, we got it for you at jrsbbq.com. We appreciate everybody's support and business. And now, on with the show.
Yeah, hey, while we're in shill mode, we should remind everybody that if you're looking for the perfect stocking stuffer for the wrestling fan in your life, we should get them tickets to come see Jim, myself, and Tony Schiavone live in Huntsville. It's going down February 5th, right after AEW is in town. AEWTix.com is where you can pick up tickets to that show. But then you should come to Stand Up Live, just a few blocks away from the arena, and you're going to see one heck of a show. The rumor and innuendo is that we have a potential sponsor for this show who is going to make sure that we have quite the night. Get your tickets right now at supershowlive.com. Tickets are just 30-something bucks right now at supershowlive.com. It's Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone, and myself, Huntsville, Alabama. Stand Up Live, February 5th. And if you haven't already, check out jimrossshirts.com. We've got lots of funny ones up there, but my favorite by far is inspired by the old Dare program from the 1980s. But this says CAKE. Let me get ahead of that chocolate cake. What a great shirt.
Bobby Heenan, God bless his soul. That was, for those that don't know, the chocolate cake was Bobby Heenan's code word to me that he would like to smoke some weed. So the weed was named chocolate cake, and I kind of kept that alive in the spirit of the brain who I loved. And we had a lot of fun shirts there. And look, folks, don't take them too seriously. For God's sakes, lighten up, Francis. Come on. We're having fun here. And we're going to have fun today, too, Conrad. I can promise you that. This is going to be a good show. Even though my last trip home a week ago was the drizzling doo-doos. It's like my grandpa said one time about our housekeeper. We had a housekeeper when I was a kid growing up. My grandpa and my grandma did. I didn't. And they said, Aunt Ruth's her name. And so one day he said, don't say anything about it, but Aunt Ruth's got the walking farts.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. She was like 80. She didn't realize she was farting. But look, if you saw like a thought cloud come out of her ass, you'd see a lot of thought clouds because she was take a couple of steps and fart. And it was pretty impressive because she sounded them all pretty good, actually. So you don't want to have the walking farts. We're having fun. And, it's a good day to listen to Grilling JR with the star of the show, Conrad Thompson.
Oh, my gosh. No, listen, come on. Everybody knows who the star is. And, of course, we're talking about TLC 2009 today. We just passed the 10-year anniversary for the show. It went down on December 13th from the AT&T Center right there in San Antonio. We've got about 12,000 fans in attendance. The gate's around $730,000. Just to sort of catch you up where we are 10 years ago. We're coming off the Survivor Series, which saw John Cena retain the WWE title in a triple threat against both Shawn Michaels and Triple H. The Undertaker would retain the world title, also in a triple threat, this time against Chris Jericho and Big Show. And as you may recall, the TLC concept was originally from the TLC match, of course, tables, ladders, and chairs. And we would see all three kinds of matches here. Listen, TLC, when you go back and you look at some of the early ones with Edge and Christian and the Hardys and the Dudleys, those were, matches that we'll never forget. I've always been of the opinion when you sort of try to shoehorn the gimmick in to be an annual pay-per-view, it loses a little bit of its luster. What did you think of the idea of doing a whole pay-per-view called TLC?
Well, I've always been a man, Conrad, that appreciates trying to shoehorn it in. Quite frankly, no kidding. I'm with you on this deal. I thought that it's like saying, well, if one fillet is enough, let's just order two. So I thought we went overboard in that thing. It was the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian put on such a magical performance in their TLC matches that everybody got the bright idea. Well, this is to be lazy booking. We'll break that up. We'll have a T, we'll have an L, we'll have a C. It's so stupid. I thought it was a weak booking. I thought it was weak creative, showed a lack of overall creativity and plagiarizing off of this one great match. Leave well enough alone. It's the same concept, Conrad, as when WWE were doing multiple Hell in a Cell matches during the year. Do one, make it special, make it great. But, that's just not the philosophy there at times. So I thought the show overall was pretty decent, but I thought that we crapped in the bed on doing the whole damn show with T's and L's and C's. It makes things run together. It's hard to be unique and separate performances and presentations with the same basic gimmicks used in several matches. So I wasn't crazy about it, but I always enjoyed the TLC matches. It was a turning point in a lot of things in wrestling that those three teams did, and I'm really proud that I got to call some of those because I thought they were they will hold up forever. Go back and watch the TLC matches. Most of them will hold up today very easily.
I'm interested to hear your take on that because, Bruce Pritchard has often said that he hated these types of matches. He thought they were too brutal, unnecessary, shorten a career. And I know you're old school too. How do you differentiate between, hey, this is too brutal and this is entertaining? Is there a line from an announcer perspective, from a head of talent relations perspective? And did the TLC matches ever cross that line?
I don't think they did, but they got close to it. I don't disagree with Bruce on that deal. They surely got close to it. The overboard for me would be hardway blood, unprotected chair shots to the head, anything to the head, bad. But other than that, what you're seeing is a plethora of big old flat back bumps. And as long as the guy's taught well and he's fundamentally sound, and you can take a flat back bump and protect yourself. I don't have as much apprehension as I would at another time. In other words, if an indie company where he had guys that saw a TLC match and thought they could pull it off, they'd never done it, but they want to raise the bar nonetheless, that's a mistake. So I don't think it went over the line, but I think we could see the line from where we were standing. But again, unprotected chair shots, hard way blood, those type things will make you uneasy, make you a little queasy, quite frankly, because we know sitting at ringside what's going on. We know that this guy's hurting. We know this guy's taking a chance to have a better match. And then here's the funny thing about it. You do it for the fans. You do it for yourself. But you largely do it for the acceptance of the fans. And then, of course, if you have a bad match, you have a missed move, like me, misspeak occasionally, then shit hits the fan. And, we're always standing at the bottom of the hill. We all know, Conrad, that shit rolls downhill.
Yes, we do. And we also know the risks of these TLC matches. And in fact, everyone knows about the risk of driving drunk. You could get in a crash, people could get hurt or killed. But let's take a moment to look at some rather surprising statistics. Almost 29 people in the U.S. die every day in alcohol impaired vehicle crashes. That's one person every 50 minutes. And even though drunk driving fatalities have fallen by a third in the last 3 decades, drunk driving crashes still claim more than 10,000 lives each year. And many people are unaware that driving while high can be just as dangerous. In 2015, 42% of drivers killed in crashes tested positive for drugs. Not so harmless after all, is it? And get this, from 2007 to 2015, marijuana use among drivers killed in crashes doubled. The truth is, driving while high is deadly. So stop kidding yourself. If you're impaired from alcohol or drugs, don't get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different, drive high, get a DUI, drive sober, or get pulled over. That's an important message this time of year. Let's talk about something Meltzer was writing as we head into this pay-per-view. There's some talk of dropping the ECW name for the Tuesday night show. The show itself may or may not change, but Sci-Fi is apparently upset about the falling ratings. The show itself would remain in the same time slot. And this is the report directly from the Observer. The show itself will remain in the time slot, and the show has now gotten to where its average ratings are barely above the primetime average. So the main value of wrestling is to boost the primetime average, because you can't sell the time like similarly rated shows. And a 1 hour show doing a 0.98 on a station that averages a 0.9 isn't doing much to boost the weekly average of 28 hours in prime time. ECW is also not a good fit based on the synergy of the rest of the programming on the network. So it's not valuable there either. The value it has is that WWE has a good track record of delivering well above the average ratings for every other station it's on, except NBC and Sci-Fi, and did for Sci-Fi until recently. So they'll have to give it a chance. But this is an interesting little twist, I guess, because I think Bonnie Hammer is still overseeing Sci-Fi, and Bonnie Hammer enjoyed tremendous success with Vince once upon a time. What do you remember about the network potentially being upset with the performance of ECW?
Well, they were patient, probably more patient than a lot of companies would be, thanks to the success of Monday Night Raw and Bonnie Hammer's relationship with Vince. But they were probably more patient than a lot of networks would have been, quite frankly. I don't know how good a product we produced for ECW. We found out that the ECW brand had cachet to a niche audience, and they were very, very loyal. Unfortunately, there just weren't many of them left by the time we got there and put it on television.
Yeah, it was, it's not the same. And I guess we should mention that ECW's been back on for a few years at this point, at least the name only. It does feel like it's coming to an end here. Do you think they should have put a bullet in this thing sooner than they really did? Or when did you realize, well, this isn't what they were hoping for?
Well, here's the thing. People had high expectations that we and the WWE at that time would be able to replicate what the small roster, the ECW arena, Paul Heyman, his crew of Us Against the World guys created. And we weren't able to do that. And we shouldn't have even thought we could have, because it was unrealistic. It's just hard to do reprises. But I thought probably after giving it the good old college try and providing more work for other guys and gals, that we did the best we could, but probably could have stuck a fork in it a little earlier. But there again, if you say that, then you may be taking some guys and gals out of some payoffs, some paydays that they would be missing, obviously. So and realistically, yes, we probably should have pulled the plug a little earlier. It wasn't the same. It was never going to be the same. It was only the same in initials only. And that really wasn't enough for the ECW hardcores.
Let's talk about Jesse Ventura. Colin Cowherd had Jesse on just a few days after he did Monday Night Raw. And of course, Jesse is ripping WWE, saying the company was a joke and still in the Stone Age as a business because the wrestlers don't have a union and they classify wrestlers as independent contractors when they're clearly not. And he really goes down the rabbit hole on this. And he says, how can you be an independent contractor when you're told when to wrestle, who to wrestle, and you can't wrestle for another promotion? There's lots of criticism thrown around for Jesse Ventura, but this has always been something that he was sort of known for, the idea that wrestlers should unionize. And of course, everyone has had fun debating whether or not wrestlers truly were independent contractors. You and I have never talked about it. What say you?
It's passe now. It's archaic. There's no reason, in my view, and I'm not an accountant. I'm not a top administrator with any company, but it seems to me like it's somewhat ridiculous to perceive that these men and women are independent contractors. Look, I've disagreed with Jesse philosophically on many points over the years. I've never knocked his ability to broadcast or his talent or his charisma, but he's got a very unique point of view on a lot of topics, and I think he makes some very valid points here. To me, what an independent contractor is not being described in these wrestler contracts. So I'm not a big fan, pardon me, of the independent contractor mantra. There's money there now in a lot of companies where talents could be employees. Look, it's all about the money, Conrad. There's no other reason that we could think of why these men and women are not employees and given the benefits that employees should deserve and earn.
Right.
There's no reason. But it's all about the cash. It saves companies a few bucks here and there. And I say, you save the bucks in another place, another area of your business, and boost your care for the talent. Look, the talent's the most important thing that a wrestling company has, the most important asset. Talent and television. If you don't have great talent to package with good TV, you're SOL. And which means, kids, shit out of luck. So I think that he makes some very valid points. And again, it comes back to the whole deal. It's done that. It's been done that way. So let's not change anything. Why not? Why not change things for the better? All change isn't bad. So I'm a big believer that the talents should come first in all companies, and where a company can afford to make them employees. Because I don't want to hear the old, well, if they get hurt in the ring, we pay for it. Well, if they, come on, just cover your ass again and again and again. Wrestlers deserve better in all companies that can afford benefits. And the big companies can't afford benefits. And that would include Ring of Honor. Well, we're small bullshit. You're owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. You got money out the ass. Spend some of it on your talents. Why not? WWE, same thing. We've said this for years. And then, of course, and AEW, I'm not going to leave them out either. Their guys are independent contractors. We should all take a long look going forward. And maybe 2000 will be the year that it happens where wrestlers become more than independent contractors.
Let's talk about one of those famous stories in wrestling. This is directly from the Observer. Ventura had attempted to get the wrestlers to unionize in 1986, and the idea was they would agree not to perform at WrestleMania 2 at the last minute unless Vince signed to recognize the union. However, Vince was able to break the movement before the show, and when Ventura's lawyers asked Vince how he found out, Vince said under oath that Hogan was the one feeding him the information. Hogan, of course, claims otherwise, but that's the reason for the long-standing hatred between Ventura and Hogan. Did you ever hear that story before, that he was trying to pull a fast one for WrestleMania 2 and Hogan helped put a stop to it?
Yeah, oh yeah. That was Jesse's deal. His sensationalism, and Jesse at that time knew enough about unions and politics to be dangerous. Now, after that, he gained more knowledge and was elected governor of Minnesota. Thought about, the presidential run was always a topic. And look, based on what we're seeing today in the White House, Ventura may have been an upgrade. Who knows? That's just opinion. But I heard that story. But the talents, look, I asked Bill Watts one time in the mid 80s. I said, do you think that there'll ever be a union in wrestling? And he said, he laughed in my face. He said, hell no. Because wrestlers can't even agree where to go to lunch together, much less how to handle their money and their union. Do you think they'd pay their dues? Do you think they'd pick one of their own to be the head of the union when nobody trusts anybody? It's never going to happen. And I'm telling you right now, based on what I see today in today's world, there's never going to be a wrestlers union. Dream on. It's just not going to happen. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing to have one. But on that basic old principle that cowboys told me back 30 years ago or more, that hell, we can't even agree on where to have a burger. No, I don't want to go there. I want to go there. I want to go there. That was same deal. And I experienced that. I got the elbow on the side of the table when we were having lunch with all those promoters that time when somebody was talking about murdering Vince, what they were having for lunch that day. So it's like, we couldn't have a buffet. A buffet is the only way to go because it gives them more selections because nobody's going to be happy with what's ordered by one other guy. It's the damnedest society and community you'll ever see.
Let's talk about somebody who's been a part of that society for a long time. Meltzer would write, while this is not official, it is believed that Gerald Briscoe won't be returning as an agent and will be helping at developmental where his son Wes wrestles. Part of this is health concerns because of his age and health. It's felt going on the road between the travel and all the issues is a pressure cooker job. It had been recommended that Briscoe could be used as a talent scout to scout independent wrestling in places like NCAA wrestling tournaments to find new talent. What can you tell us Jerry was doing, in this era? And, were you happy to see him sort of move into part-time?
Absolutely. I was always for that. Jerry Briscoe is one of the more tremendous unsung heroes in the annals of WWE and their growth from a troubled, privately owned company into a mega money public traded company because of the talent roster that we started beefing up. I knew that my mandate from Vince was to get younger and more athletic and find some stars. That was my mantra, my walk. That's my marching orders. And I knew that to get to that point, we had to get people in the field looking at talents that were objective and had product knowledge and understood how to evaluate an athlete as a human being. Are we bringing a piece of shit in the locker room just because he looks good in 8x10? Or are we bringing a good human being that has a great work ethic and wants to be part of a winning team? And Jerry had all those things. He's a great amateur at Oklahoma State, of course I was close to it because we're Okies, and we hung out together. But I knew, one, I could trust Jerry. I believed in his judgment, and I believed in his ability to scout and identify great talent. So Jerry got the perfect role, and I'm sure if you ask him today, he's still doing the same job. He's still doing the same job today that we're talking about right now. Back in what was 2008?
9, yeah.
9. So he's perfect for that role. So I was very happy he got there. He's been a major difference maker. We would never have signed Brock Lesnar if Jerry had not babysat that for 2 years. And the fact that Jerry's college teammate, Jay Robinson, was also Brock's head coach at the University of Minnesota. So Jerry's advancement, the way I looked at it, into that area was key. And it was as important a move. That was as important an assignment as any talent we signed. Because look at the people that we signed under our watch, and they're dotted in the Hall of Fame. They're rich, they're famous, and they've helped this company establish their persona, their identity. So Jerry's a big hit, and I'll never be able to thank him enough for all he did for me as an administrator, and the fans should never be able to thank him enough for all the great talents that he helped bring to our attention and help recruit.
It really is remarkable how big of a role he's always played behind the scenes. Something that really stuck out to me here, though, is that 10 years ago, his son Wes was a part of developmental, and we never really saw him do much with WWE. We've seen him pop up here and there in other places, but why don't you think we see more from Wes Briscoe?
I don't know. I really don't know. He's a great athlete. He was a good amateur. But boy, his dad and his uncle, Jack Briscoe, cast long shadows. And sometimes it's very, very challenging for an athlete to step away from a shadow that's strong, that prominent. But I don't know I was never around Wes that much, even though we have in our program. I stayed away from that because of my relationship with his dad.
Right.
I don't want there to be any confusion that, he's getting a break because JR likes his dad. That would not help Wes at all. So I don't really have a great answer for you, Conrad. Athletically, he's a good athlete, still is. It may just be the old it factor. Hell, I don't know. But it just never clicked for Wes, and I don't know if it will, but he's a very solid hand. He's learned his skills well, but for whatever reason, he just hasn't been able to be recognized by the right people to get the right place.
Well, I hope he pops up somewhere, between NWA and New Japan and MLW and AEW. I mean,
absolutely. There's places he can work if people will give him a chance, but we'll see how creative the bookers are on some of these things. He can have good matches just about anybody on your roster, is the way I look at it. So we'll see. Hell, he may end up at AEW. You never know. You never know about this damn thing.
Let's talk about, unfortunately, Umaga. I say unfortunately because we lost him on December 4th. Edward Fatu is his real name. He passes away in Houston just 2 days after suffering a massive heart attack and only 36 years old. Obviously a very successful career within WWE, coming in as part of 3 Minute Warning, Jamal, and he'd be with his cousin Matt, who was Roman Reigns' brother. He's eventually repackaged as Umaga. We saw him win the IC title a couple of times. He's the actual main event of WrestleMania 23, the Battle of the Billionaires. That show does a record 1.2 million buys on pay-per-view. And now to see just, not terribly long after that, he's no longer with us. This had to be shocking news.
Shocking. Loved Eddie. Eddie had, of all the Samoan lineage wrestlers, excluding Dwayne Johnson, there have been so many great ones, but Eddie was right there at the top of that list. It would have been, at the end of this run, as good a Samoan wrestler as I've ever seen. He so big and athletic. There's a difference in being big, and there's a difference in being athletic. When you can bring those two combinations together, big and athletic, and charisma, you got something. Growing up in that family with that DNA running through his veins, he had great aptitude for the profession. But as we have seen and so many times, a lot of times these guys didn't take care of themselves. They didn't eat right. They got too heavy. Just did they get their blood work done as often as they should? All those things. Were the checks and balances all in place medically to make sure that issues like this didn't occur again? Because I'm just saying, I don't know this, but I'm assuming that if Eddie had the appropriate medical, he had taken care of himself better and got all this medical work done and paid attention to his health more, that some of these issues could have been avoided, quite frankly. But it was a shock to me because he's big and strong and smiling and just a wonderful guy. But I always thought he was on his way to becoming the best big man that I had ever seen. And that includes the Vaders and the Bigelows and all these cats that were monsters that could move around. He was just a very, very special. So it was really a heartbreaking thing. Young kids, young family. It was sad. And he'd just been they bought a house, a nice home in Houston. He was living a good life. But, the self-discipline and how you address your health every day. We talked about this in this show, Conrad. None of us should take our damn health for granted. Man, I don't. I'm in the back nine here, pal. I'm watching everything I do as best I can because I don't want to end up that way where they find me dead in my chair.
No, nobody wants that. Such a sad story about Fatu. I'm sure we'll talk about some good memories another time, but let's talk about, an interesting little thing that's happening in wrestling. Linda McMahon is running for the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate in Connecticut. She's going to be, head to head with Rob Simmons here. At least that's what it looks like. A lot of other folks are sort of dropping out, and it's come to light here that Linda has confirmed publicly that she's budgeted $50 million to win the race. I mean, that's just unbelievable to me. $50 million. Politico.com is going to go on a little bit of a hit parade here and interview a number of former wrestlers who aren't on good terms with WWE to get them to fire off some negative quotes about Linda. They would get Chyna, Bruno, Zbyszko, Mark Mero, and Billy Graham. Of course, the report from the Observer is none were quoted as saying much more than they wouldn't vote for her. Seriously, getting wrestlers from out of state who haven't followed the campaign to talk about it, really not going to amount to much.
Right.
What do you think of the approach for, opposition and people who maybe weren't friends of the McMahons to go to the wrestlers and get quotes? And what did you think when you heard, hey, we've budgeted $50 million for this effort?
Well, I would, in hindsight, I probably would not have talked about the $50 million deal because I think it turned a lot of people off.
Yep.
I thought it fostered the perception of her that they wanted to exist anyway was helped along by that press release that Linda was going to spend $50 million on her campaign. So, and when you say I'm going to spend $50 million to win the race, the defiance in politics, much like we see sometimes on Twitter and other social media on pro wrestling today, is silly. It really is. People really had rather bitch and moan than to compliment and give somebody an attaboy or good job in real life, in all phases of life. But it seems like that the political journalists are pathetic, especially today. This side of the aisle, that side of the aisle. You know my opinion on that. I don't trust any of the son of bitches. The day of the public servant is essentially over. The day of the professional politician is well in place. And I just thought that she fed into that a little bit on that deal. But here's the thing. It was so stupid. You get wrestlers. Hey, when you're paid on a discretionary system, nobody's ever going to be happy with the way they're paid. Now, maybe they are now in WWE because most of those guys are essentially on salary. So they know what they're going to pay. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't have a problem with that at all. I just think there's got to be a level above that. And maybe there is. Probably, I'm sure there's got to be, right? That if you do better and the houses are better and the pay-per-views are more productive, that you get a little bit of extra, cheese on your Whopper. So but those guys are, they're going to have shit to say. And they don't even vote. They're not even voters. It's to stir the shit, to create controversy. And I know our friend Eric says controversy creates cash. Don't disagree with that at all. But goddamn, man, you gotta let me up on some of this stuff. Not you, but in general. So I thought that Linda, to be honest with you, I thought she would have made a phenomenal Congress or senator or whatever, representing Connecticut. Linda McMahon is a good woman, and she's highly intelligent. She's a Southern girl from graduated from East Carolina, North Carolina girl. I love it. My wife loved Linda McMahon, and my wife had a good judge of character, and she loved her with all her heart. And I just think the world of her, and I still do, quite frankly. She would have been a great choice, but because of what we all have been accused of, Conrad, we're wrestling fans.
Right.
She was in the wrestling business. People don't like fucking pro wrestling. They're going to jump on her shit. That's all that was. That's all it was. How do you not? She didn't run the company. Vince ran the company. And her area that she worked in was always phenomenal. So I don't know, man. I just think it was a bias against pro wrestling. And when I got to encounter people that have bias in our business, I don't like it. I like to just separate I want to start the conversation, get away from them, and don't interact with them again. We all have lived through. That's like being the goddamn, being shamed. I was kidding for years about being too fat when I was in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. It was terrible. Bullying. That's all this is. It's bullying. So I didn't appreciate it very much, and I thought they made a very misrepresentation of her character in that matter. And the guys that talk to her are the same, are basically the same ones you expect. And thank God Bruno came back around and understood what was going on and was forgiving, if that's a good word. But some of these other cats are the normal suspects. They're going to bitch about them being wrong. And guess what? You know why, Conrad? Because they didn't save their goddamn money. They didn't pay their taxes on time, many of them. They should look in the mirror instead of worrying about the promotion. I didn't get my push. But I got my push. I was promised a push. What the fuck is a push? What do you have to do with a push? What does a wrestler have to do with their push? Everything. Well, the office. Oh, no, what you are, you're a puss. And you got no character. Look in the mirror and say, I'm sorry, self. I screwed this up. I'd like to have another chance.
God damn, I don't know how we'll follow that, but we'll try. That was, I went 6 to midnight when you went red ass right there. And if you wish you could have, you need to go to BlueChew.com.
Yeehaw!
You see, Blue Chew offers men a performance enhancement for the bedroom. At BlueChew.com, you can get the world's first chewables with the same active ingredients as both Viagra and Cialis. And a BlueChew.com affiliated physician will work with you to find the right dosage and active ingredient that best suits you. Chewables can work faster, and the chewables from BlueChew.com can be taken on a full or empty stomach. By the way, the online physician consult, it's free. So it's also cheaper than those other two, Viagra and Cialis. It only takes a few minutes right now to connect with a BlueChew.com affiliated physician. And if you qualify, you get prescribed online very quickly. There's no in-person doctor visit. There's no awkward conversation. There's no waiting in line at the pharmacy. It ships directly to your door in discreet packaging. And these chewables from BlueChew.com are prescribed online by a doctor and made right here in the USA. Blue Chew is going to give you the confidence you need in bed every single time. You and your partner will love it. So what are you waiting for? Chew it and do it. And here's a great deal. Just because you listen to this show, visit BlueChew.com and get your first order for free when you use our promo code JR. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. And the promo code is JR.
Conrad, I went to my doctor the other day and we were talking about the podcast and so forth. And I had to go get my testosterone implant renewed, reapplied, another one. And I really believe in those. And we were talking about different things. He said, well, this works for you. I said, that's great. I'm stronger. I can do more reps at the gym. I sleep better. Food tastes better. And of course, my sex drive is pretty strong. And he said, well, I'll give you a prescription for some Cialis. And I said, no, I use Blue Chew. So now I got my doctor, all up in the Blue Chew mindset. But here's the kicker. He said, let me write you a prescription. I said, okay. He said, just go take it, and we'll see how much it costs. Because now the prices are down. You know what 20 pills of Cialis cost? I didn't do it. $1,250.
Oh my gosh.
$1,250 for 20 Cialis pills. I told the pharmacist, no thanks, false alarm, tear that one up. I'm not doing it because I got Blue Chew. So it's affordable. Folks, it works. It works. Conrad and I joke about it, but it works. Is it for everybody? Hell, I don't know. Anything's for everybody, but Blue Chew is damn sure right for me. And here's the thing about it. You don't realize how much you like it until you are out of it. So
that's the line right there. You don't realize how much you like it till you're out of it. Don't run out. Go to BlueChew.com right now. Use that promo code JR. Your first order is free. You'll just pay $5 shipping, and we will never beat that ad here on Grill and JR. Let's talk about Mickie James. She recently signed a recording contract with Kent Wells, who had worked with, stars like Dolly Parton. She's trying to make her way in music here. Again, this is 10 years ago. She's 30 years old here. Mickie James is somebody who's been a pretty well constantly established character in wrestling for a long time, and she's always dabbled with music. Why don't you think Vince sort of put the machine behind her music to really make a run?
Well, I'm assuming, and only an assumption, that she did not flip his switch like some of the other divas did. There were some issues at her one time about, allegedly she needed to lose weight and all these things. And look, I want to tell you something. There's a few unsung heroes of the divas that I signed, or we signed, that don't get the credit that they deserve. And that would include Mickie James by far. She's a Hall of Famer. She's a hell of a hand. The reason you keep Mickie James types around is because they can have great matches, or better, the best matches that some of your green women cannot have working with each other. Mickey's that stable thing, and her and women like Jackie Moore. Jackie Moore is as good as anybody we ever signed. Nobody was any better than Jackie Moore in the ring. And for all the great success that Alita and a Trish had and became major stars, still popular on the autograph circuit. You got to look back and say, atta girl Mickie James, atta girl Jackie Moore, atta girl Ivory. There were several of those women that didn't get the accolades that they probably should have deserved. I'm just thinking that Mickie probably wasn't Vince's, his cup of tea maybe, but I thought she was just phenomenal. I still do. They're lucky they have her, and she's still singing. She's got a beautiful singing voice. She's got a beautiful son. Her husband's the NWA champion. I got a lot of time for Mickie James and her family, and I just think that she's a classic. She's definitely a Hall of Famer, and she's one of the few people that if they get inducted into the Hall of Fame, that I would venture back into those waters to go see her get inducted. I just have so much love and respect for Mickie because what she's gone through and battled through, the little country girl that could. She's just trying to live her dreams. And anybody that can't appreciate others trying to live their dreams can kiss my ass. My dimpled, fat Oklahoma ass. Kiss it.
Let's talk about that for a minute. You got me down the rabbit hole when you said, maybe she wasn't Vince's cup of tea. How much do you think the push of the divas is, or maybe even not just divas, the quote unquote push of Vince McMahon and his endorsement, it hinges on whether or not he thinks you're attractive?
A lot, because she's like a casting director. That's not unlike anything in Hollywood. It's like that Vince has got this his arms wrapped around this bad premise. It's that way in all areas of entertainment where you're going to be seen on television or on the screen of any kind. So I don't think it's unusual, but he certainly, and he feels the same way about male talent. If he doesn't think he got something, I think that's why Christian didn't get the push that he could have gotten in WWE after he and Edge broke up. Vince didn't think Christian, in my view, but only one opinion, that's all, didn't have the typical big star look. And thankfully, Christian's now working for Fox, doing the Tuesday night thing with Renee and Booker T, and they do a nice job and a fun show. CM Punk's there from time to time. I don't know where you're supposed to talk about. We can talk about anything we want. It's our show, right? So,
sure.
So I did it. Vince had the eye for talent, and when he saw somebody that he would have had no problem anointing them, or making sure the contract's this, or let's take care of this person, or whatever. It was big. If he didn't think you had the sex appeal, then at the end of the day, you probably aren't going to make it. If he didn't think you had natural, organic sex appeal and had the it factor, you probably weren't going to make it in the WWE. And quite frankly, again, in Vince's defense, the same thing held true for the guys. I mentioned the Christian as an example. Christian was a hell of a worker, still is. He wanted to, but when he was with Edge, Edge was special, still is special. And Christian felt that Robert Gibson role. Ricky was the charismatic one, was Ricky, and that was Edge, and the rudder in the water, and the fundamentally sound guy, and the comeback guy or the sales guy was Robert Gibson. So that's kind of how I look at that thing, you know. So there's an issue there, but it's not an unusual issue, and it's not exclusive to WWE or any other oriented wrestling thing. It's that way in all forms of entertainment. You know, I'm not saying he's the Harvey Weinstein thing's going on here at all. I'm just saying that Vince knew what he liked. He knew what he thought would sell, and hell, it's his team. He's the executive producer. He's everything. So that was his deal.
Let's talk a little bit about something that was a big deal at the time, and I'm sure even more so behind the scenes. I'm talking about Shane McMahon. Meltzer would write, regarding Shane McMahon, even though his resignation is effective the first of the year, he has not been working at the company since resigning. It's been said that the morale as far as the workers in the office has been the lowest anyone can remember. Linda McMahon was described as being a wonderful boss to work for, and Shane McMahon was also well liked by those in his department. But the same isn't said about those who work and worked for Stephanie. Vince is extremely well respected, obviously, but his mood swings and changing his mind so often have made it very difficult to work for him, and virtually everyone who has worked directly with him after being let go have remarked that they would never want to go back. One person close to him has said that his leaving had to do with him being 40 years old and wealthy, and that he was passed over for power, and that he was tired of being humiliated publicly by his father. So Shane leaving the company is something a lot of people probably never called. You were there from the beginning. Did you ever get the vibe that this was going to shake out and he would be the odd man out?
I never thought Shane would leave, but I also never thought that Shane was going to be the heir apparent. And I think at some point around this time is where Shane realized that Vince was going to go another direction as his successor. And that wasn't even his daughter. It was Triple H. Paul Levesque was going to be the guy. He still is going to be the guy. So, but I didn't know that drastic times would take these drastic measures whereby Shane would be leaving his birthright, be leaving the family company to go out on his own. I think at the end of the day, folks, all Shane McMahon wanted to do was make his dad proud in the family business. And it seemed in Shane's view that opportunity was never going to exist.
Did you have a conversation with Shane? I mean, does he come, do you know ahead of time before it's made public that he's thinking about easing out?
He came to my office and we talked, and because we were friends, and he understood I had some of those same trepidations. I got tired of some of those things that he was experiencing. Just took it as a part, but I wasn't Vince's son. I wasn't in the hunt or the discussion to be in that hierarchy, which was fine with me. I was making plenty of money, and I had my gig, and I was happy with it. But Shane is a whole different ball game than anybody else could experience. The only son of Vince McMahon felt like he wasn't going to be able to succeed his father, and that's what he wanted to do. And Vince told me one time, you know, Vince loved both his kids, still does. Great grandchildren, you know. Stephanie's got all girls, Shane's got all boys. It's a great situation. But the bottom line is that, you know, Vince told me one time that, you know, the girl, speaking of Stephanie, the girl's is more like me than the boy. And I don't know how we got the conversation, but Vince always saw Stephanie had that eye of the tiger, very aggressive, sometimes hyper aggressive in the eyes of some, I'm sure. But that's what he wanted. He wanted controversy. He wanted strong leadership. He wanted impactful players in that role to be, and he thought that Stephanie had more of Vince's personality than did Shane. And Shane was more like Linda, as you mentioned a moment ago. And I don't think that either of those are wrong, but I felt badly for Shane and how he left, and you know, and tried to go out on his own and do his thing, and then he came back. He's came back lately, and I don't know where he is now. I know he was on an episode of CSI the other day. I thought he did a good job. But nonetheless, I don't know what his future is there. But knowing him and his family, they're going to be just fine.
What do you think about the way it was sort of broken down, what it was like working for each McMahon? Linda being described as a wonderful boss to work for, Shane being described as well liked by those in his department. People not saying the same about Stephanie. we've beat up what it's like working for Vince McMahon. What about Stephanie?
Well, I've never had any real serious issues with Stephanie, quite honestly. We've had a couple of disagreements. I got called in the principal's Vince's office with her and Vince because I happened to mention, I said something, the Southern people we don't have the best diction sometimes, we don't utilize our vocabulary sometimes as good as we should, perhaps. I was on Coach was a heel, working with Lawler and me. And, because it was that never-ending test to replace JR. And younger, more diversity, cool. Hey, I'm a Native American, and that's kind of diverse, right? I called Coach in the heat of the battle. I said, boy, let me tell you something. Now, I didn't call him boy. It's just boy, boy, let me tell you something. And all of a sudden, somebody heard it, and I got called into Vince's office by Stephanie and Vince for making what was perceived to be a racial overtone, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. And I think Coach was in that meeting too. So I had to apologize to Coach for offending him if I did. But I made sure and said, what's part of my problem? Good old JR sometimes can't keep his goddamn mouth shut. I said, you're making a mistake. This is bullshit, and you guys know it's bullshit. Nobody said nothing. They knew I was right. They knew I wasn't racist. I knew I didn't dislike Coach. Still don't dislike Coach. Why would I dislike Coach, for God's sakes? He's harmless. So that was that deal. And that was just, she was flexing her muscle in front of her dad to show him how she would handle a tenured, experienced employee. And so I didn't agree with any of that. Still don't. It's still untrue. It's still bullshit. But it's not the grounds for bullshit that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life and have an issue with her. I don't have an issue with Stephanie. None. I understood what she was trying to do. God damn, how many times did I try to impress my dad? How many times did I try to impress his ass? And I fell short more often than not. Till finally one day in my entire life, he told me he loved me. One time. So there's where we were. So I didn't have bad feelings about her then or now. But she was challenging because she was trying to manage like she perceived Vince would manage. And I think now, from what I hear, she's managing more. She's more comfortable in her own skin. She knows her role there. She's got a big position there in WWE. And I think that she's probably not as heavy-handed as she once was, because she knows that's not the way you motivate talent in today's world.
Well, let's talk about somebody who's motivated to come back. I can't believe this is real. Meltzer would write, according to a WWE source who would have full knowledge of the situation, Bret Hart, 52, signed a short-term talent contract with WWE this past week, covering a period from January 1st to April 10th, or through WrestleMania, and about 2 weeks after the March 28th show at the University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. Hart simply told us he wasn't going to lie about anything and thus wasn't going to say anything about the story. This is pretty remarkable. I don't think a lot of people, after the whole Bret screwed Bret scenario in 1997 went down, anybody thought this would ever happen, but somehow it does. 12 years later, what do you remember about Bret Hart coming back into the fold here?
Very happy. I was happy. Anytime you can spend quality time with Bret Hart, you're better off for it. And if that goes for his friends like me, it certainly is doubly effective for talents, because he is a great. I'm shocked, and maybe it's just Bret's not interested. I'm shocked that somebody isn't using Bret to help coach, teach, motivate younger talents. He was taught the right way. He's brilliant mind, great worker. One of the best I ever saw in my entire life. So I was happy he's coming back for a variety of reasons, but not at the top of the list is the fact that he's going to start wrestling again. Him having Bret Hart back on the team, to me, be like having Brett Favre back at the Packers, just hanging around and helping the talent.
Pretty remarkable that it comes together, and he makes the debut on the January 4th Raw, the same night that TNA would make their debut on Monday night. How much of this Bret acquisition was because Vince felt even a little bit of competitive juices flowing based on TNA moving to Monday?
Well, it might have had something to do with it. You know, who would have envisioned that Vince's reaction to AEW on Wednesday nights would have precipitated and created a need to put NXT from their own network back on put it on USA. I never thought that he would go that far. It's a good strategic move. It's got a lot of people watching wrestling on Wednesday nights, no doubt about that. In the so-called Wednesday Night War, because God knows we kind of relived whatever's old is new again, right? So the Attitude Era was all on Mondays. So now we got Wednesday. This big war, folks. You got to tune in, freak your mind. Big war, knock everything that's going on. It's what we do now. But you know, I don't know. I just Bret. I mean, Shane was. Bret was he was such a part of the fabric of the company, and it seemed like it righted a lot of wrongs trying to get his jersey back. So I was happy that he came back, but
you don't think much of it was TNA, or you think?
I don't think so. Hey, look, maybe, but I think getting Bret back in for the sake of the brand, our brand,
sure,
at that time was where the money was. To be honest with you, and it's going to piss some people off. Battling TNA, it's like they had knives, we had guns,
sure, and
they were never going to win the fight. So that's kind of where I look at that deal. So it could have had an influence. I'm sure it could have. Yeah, could have. Yes, it could have.
At the same time,
probably not.
Don't you think Vince McMahon's attitude, the one you just laid out for the WWE attitude towards the TNA rivalry, quote unquote, he's got to view AEW the same way. I mean, even you yourself say, well, I mean, we're not trying to compete with Vince. We don't think we're going to put Vince out of business. That's not our goal. Our goal is to, and create a product that's profitable and enjoy, ourselves and make some money doing it. And I mean, that's the reason everybody should be in business.
Yep.
But don't you think that Vince views AEW as, well, they've got knives, I've got guns?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure in his mind's eye, hence somebody saying it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah. All those things. It's just basically saying they will run out of gas. They will run out of fuel. And we're going to be, and who's going to be left standing? WWE. Well, first of all, WWE is always going to be standing unless they really stop listening to their audience altogether creatively and don't make some changes to freshen things up like every company must do. So it's not me knocking the goddamn WWE folks. So tweet what you want. I'm not knocking them. We all have to do this. We all have to be better every week or we're not going to make it. We have to be better every week or we're not going to make it. Is that clear enough for everybody?
Yep.
And that includes WWE, it includes AEW, it includes everybody. So, I think that, I just think that, Bret was such a part of this thing. And I think that was big. And what's getting Bret back was a whole lot bigger than battling TNA. But there's no doubt in my mind that Vince is seeing that AEW with some of his players that he helped mold, including Jericho and Moxley and myself, among others, we got more steam than he thought. And the other thing about somebody said, I might have mentioned this on another show, Vince is worth about $2 billion and change. Very much tied to his core business and not a lot of other diversity. Mr. Khan is very diversified. Not just the Jaguars and the Fulham Football Club in England, but manufacturing plants, hotels, real estate, and he's worth $8.2 billion. I'll take my $8.2 billion guy running out of money after the guy that has $2.2 billion. Just do the math, folks. Just do the math.
Let's keep it moving here, and let's talk about you. Wade Keller would write, WWE announcer Jim Ross says if he returns to the announced position in 2010, it might not be for the SmackDown brand. Ross's suggestion could open the door for him to return to Raw or be moved to ECW. Quote, some think it is an automatic that if I return to WWE, that I'm automatically going to be back on the SmackDown announce team. I wouldn't say it's an automatic call at all. And he also said that you will wait for the quote unquote issues to play out as WWE tries to find the right combination for the Raw, SmackDown, and ECW announce teams. Matt Stryker was shifted from ECW to SmackDown, and WWE called up Byron Saxton from developmental to call ECW after JR left his position on SmackDown following a Bell's palsy attack. So chat me up. What were you thinking? Is this something you were thinking, hey, I'm going to come back, but I'd like to get back on Raw?
Well, Conrad, I had my third bout of Bell's palsy right before this, right? Third bout. I didn't know where my health was going to be. We were still trying to figure out what causes Bell's palsy. And they still don't know. There's no known cause. There's no known cure. And my biggest priority was my health, as it should be for all of us. It wasn't who's going to call Raw.
Right.
Or who's going to, come on, bullshit. So I wasn't crazy about the product. I wasn't crazy about how I was treated. I wasn't crazy about being lied to and put on SmackDown in 2008, as it were. I was unhappy, and maybe I was too challenging to make happy. Maybe I was just a giant corporate pain in the ass who thought his way was always better than the company's way, and that may be true. I will admit I was not the easiest son of a bitch in the world to manage at times, because I felt like I had adequate product knowledge, as adequate as anybody in the company. And I know that sounds egocentric as hell, but when you've been a fan all your life and you get in the business when you're 22 years old and you get all these great mentors, these amazing experiences, and you pay your dues in a variety of ways, I didn't need to be told what to say by some kid that's just got out of college or is walking around with a smirky ass smile on their face because we got you. So I didn't know what was going to happen there at the end. I wanted to get my health better. But I thought maybe my smile will come back, or some of these things. I made it very tough for myself with my attitude. I was in a state of depression. I didn't feel good. The migraine headaches are killing me. Not being able to smile, drooling. When somebody looks at you and you're sitting on a plane and you realize you're drooling, it's fucking embarrassing. So at that time, I didn't give a shit what show I called. It didn't matter. I knew I could do it. I knew I could do it as well as anybody they could hire, if not better. That's my opinion. And my story, I'm sticking to it. But hellfire, man. I just want to get well. I want to get healthy. I want to find out what's wrong with me. Why are we doing it? Why is this happening? So, I didn't know what was the future held. But thank God Jan and I had saved our money. And Vince had taken good care of me on the stock. So I was good. I had no debt and to speak of. So I was fine. But my health was my biggest concern. And I know some people have a hard time believing that, but it's actually the truth.
Let's talk about something that may or may not be the truth. Wade Keller is going to address the recent dip in WWE pay-per-views. Well, he's going to share the WWE excuse. WWE hasn't used the explanation before in any recent quarterly conference calls with investors, trying to explain to investors why pay-per-views have declined in 2009 compared to 2008 and 2007. And here's the quote. One of the things that we've seen is that the number of people watching is going up. There may be one person ordering and 3 families coming over to watch it. WWE's product in general is a communal experience, said marketing executive Michelle Wilson in an interview with adage.com. So one of the things we're looking at in 2010 is 1 pay-per-view per month. So people won't have to decide whether they want 2 pay-per-views in a single month. People do make those hard decisions in a down economy. And Wilson doesn't acknowledge that you guys had increased your pay-per-view price $5 to a base price of $44.95 to recoup some of that lost revenue from dropping pay-per-view events. So we're going up $5 and pay-per-views are down. And the official story is, 3 families are watching for every one house now.
Well, I appreciate Wade's take. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know if it's I think there are more issues than that. I always go back to the biggest issue is star power. Who's hot? Who's hot? You're coming off Austin and Rock. How do you follow that?
Right.
Were you prepared to follow that? Did you have creative in place to follow that? Did you think those days would never end, my friend? It was a bad management on our side. Guys that we were counting on to get over big time did not. They eventually got over better, but we're counting too much on John Cena to pull the entire wagon that Austin and Rock are pulling together, along with a younger Triple H and a returning Shawn Michaels and a vintage Undertaker and a surprisingly successful Mick Foley, et cetera, et cetera. Where are those guys? And how are they reinvented? How are they improved, enhanced? I see Triple H and Shawn they were so good that they were doing the same things, and maybe that should have been reevaluated. I don't know, but we didn't have the start. It's all about the attractions. Pay-per-views have this in common, folks, in every company. It's their only event that's going to sell on its name only is WrestleMania. Every other pay-per-view in the business today has to be attraction driven. So I'm simply saying, albeit the talent worked their asses off and they were giving the great effort, which you love, we didn't have anybody over to the level that Austin and Rock were. And therefore our audience felt like they were buying a less than product at times. So I think that's the reason. It's attraction driven. Pay-per-views do well when attractions are hot and they're and they're on top.
Well, let's talk about the actual show. We're finally here. TLC 2009, December 13th. Let's talk about the announce team. It's Mccool, Jerry Lawler, and Matt Striker. And Meltzer says these guys don't gel at all. Quote, Striker in 1 year has gone from being one of the best announcers in the business to one of the worst. He seems to have fallen victim to the peer pressure regarding it's uncool to do research or care. So instead, he just spouts things out. We'll come back to that for a minute. What did you think of the Mccool, Jerry Lawler, Matt Striker combination?
Don't remember a lot about it, to be honest with you. It's three-man teams are hard to navigate at times. I think Tony Schiavone and Excalibur and I do a decent job in getting better at it. We have a lot of work to do on Wednesday night, so we're damn sure trying to be the best team in wrestling. That's our goal.
Right.
But three-man teams are hard, especially when you throw a striker into the mix, new, and you got no net. You're live TV, in other words. There's no redos. It's challenging, but they didn't have time to get good. They didn't have enough reps to get good. So how anybody would have thought that, that combination is going to be seamless is somewhat naive. So, but I didn't hate it. I hated the fact I wasn't on the team. I can admit that freely, but it didn't overwhelm me, but it wasn't the reason I would have thought the broadcast was bad or good, but they just weren't given the opportunity to come together. And so that was pretty obvious.
What do you think about, Matt Striker's classification here by Dave Meltzer, that he's gone from being one of the best to one of the worst? And I guess there's some peer pressure, at least in Meltzer's mind, that it's sort of not perceived as being cool within the WWE subculture and an ecosystem to be well researched or prepared. It's more of the old school. Let's just call it in the ring.
You mean like I used to do it, be prepared and do some due diligence? I got bullshit on that all the time too. I didn't give a shit. You're not doing this job. I'm doing it. And I guarantee you, if they thought you could do it better than me, my ass would be gone in a heartbeat, because they want to get me out of there drastically. Dynamite my ass out of that seat. So I heck, I don't know. Matt's got his own style, but I could understand it wasn't fair to him that he was being made fun of like he was a wrestling nerd because he wanted to prepare
and do a good job. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not right. That's not right. It's being a goddamn bully. And boy, we've used that bully term now 3 or 4 times in the show. It's just not cool.
What do you think of Matt Striker as a commentator? It's somebody that we thought once upon a time, boy, he's found his niche. This is where he'll be. And yeah, it doesn't seem like he was long for the WWE world. Great fan, great product knowledge, very intelligent. Matt and I worked Wrestle Kingdom 9 together, live at ringside from Tokyo. And the story behind that deal is that
We're going out there. We hadn't worked together in a long time. Live, 5-hour pay-per-view, no bathroom breaks. Be sure you wear your darks, kids. And we never got a format in English, ever. They give us our sheets. They're all in Japanese. Sorry. No comprende, pal. Don't teach Japanese in Westville, Oklahoma high school. So we were on our own. But so the reason I bring this up is because Matt, it's like, so what are we going to do, basically, with hands? Because we had nobody in our ear. We didn't know when the pyro was coming. We didn't know when the replays were coming, nothing. They didn't give a shit that we were there or not, to be honest with you. But he held his hands up like, what now? And I said, basically, memed, or whatever we call it, I just follow, just listen. And we made it through the 5-hour broadcast. I thought we did a pretty damn decent job, considering the circumstances that very few people even knew about. We sat there. We had the order of the matches because we knew that. Probably got that off the internet, but we got nothing else. He endured that. He endured it, and he came through, and for that, he has my respect.
Let's talk about the matches here. Let's get going. We've got a ladder match here with Shelton Benjamin and Christian for the ECW World Title. Christian's coming in as your champ. They get plenty of time here. 18 minutes and 5 seconds. It goes 4 1/4 stars. There is a spot here where they stop the match. The Texas State Athletic Commission, which Meltzer says doesn't even exist, mandates that a match has to be stopped at the first sign of blood. What did you think of the angle? What did you think of the match? And what did you think of the performers within, Christian and Shelton Benjamin?
Like both guys a lot. If I had a promotion, I would love to have both guys on my team. Too long. The issue wasn't strong enough for an 18, 20-minute match going into it. And then the ladder, again, go back to what we talked about earlier. It was an indiscriminate use of a ladder. And so it made it just was repetitious, and it wasn't creative. So, but I didn't hate it, but but the match itself didn't jump off the page at me because there wasn't a terribly hot issue. I mean, white hot issue that would necessitate a blow off match like a ladder match, and it was Christian and Shelton. But it was a good opener. And you can always depend on those two guys to give you all they got and to try to do the best job based on what tools they're given to work with.
Talk to me a little bit about, where the blood situation is with the company, where we're stopping the match here and blaming the athletic commission. I know there's a no blood policy. Christian starts to bleed. We stop the match. We close the cut. We get back into it, continue the match. How much of this, as an old school guy, did you think was a little overkill?
It was a lot of overkill. If the talent's health is in jeopardy, that's one thing. That was not this thing.
Right.
It was like it wasn't like a Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes main event bloodbath.
Right.
It wasn't that. It was simply a little bit of juice and over knee jerking the no blood policy. I think the no blood policy was more specifically for using a method to get the blood, using the old blade. I think that was what was curtailed because it is a contact profession. There is going to be bloody noses and busted eyes and busted lips and things like that. That's just going to happen. So, but I'm not big on stopping if the talent isn't in danger. Stopping the match and stopping their continuity and the flow of the match, not the best thing. But the bottom line is always should be, is it should be now, today, and forever, no pun intended, the talent's health is first and foremost to any scenario. So I understand why the deal is that it was a PR thing to make sure that the people that didn't like wrestling, they did not like wrestling because the guys used blades to cut themselves. They didn't like the whole damn process. And I don't have a lot of time for those people, as I've mentioned. And so I thought it was okay. Good opener, but stopping the match while those guys were trying to build momentum did not do them any favors.
Let's talk about the next match. It's for the Intercontinental title. John Morrison is going to lose to Drew McIntyre. Drew is your new IC champ. It takes him 10 minutes and 19 seconds to tell the story. 2 3/4 of a star. And Meltzer would say, work better than average, but crowd not that much into it. McIntyre isn't seen as a star, even with his push. I'm fascinated by this because 10 years later, both of these guys in the company after some stints outside. What'd you think watching this one back for the first time in a long time?
A lot of potential. Both guys are keepers. Ironically, as you mentioned, McIntyre should have been anointed either WWE champion or the Universal champion a year ago. He's perfect for that role. Size, look, demeanor, skill set. Something has held him back. I don't know what it is. I have a lot of confidence in Drew McIntyre, to the point where if Drew McIntyre came to a company that I was working in at the time, I would have recommended him to be a champion. He had all the necessary ingredients to be a champion, and now his drive is even more than I think it was back then. He doesn't have as many distractions in his personal life as he might have had back then. So I'm a big believer in Drew McIntyre, and I'm proud to see that John Morrison just got back there. John's a great guy, smart, extremely talented. I don't know where he got back. He's at a stage of his life where he can make some good money, regular checks, all those things. But I don't expect John to get this major push in WWE, because here we are all these years later, and McIntyre, the big guy, the size guy that Vince covets, hasn't got his push yet either. So I don't know. But the match is fine. It's just Dave made a good point. Neither one were really over.
Right.
So the match didn't have that emotional investment from the fans that you could verbally hear or see that they did not have. So that was the only negative about that deal. The work in the ring was fine.
Next up, we've got Michelle McCool. She's going to retain the women's title, beating Mickie James in 7 minutes and 31 seconds. 2.5 stars. Layla L is at ringside wearing a Piggy James shirt, which you referenced earlier. Not the best match. And Matt Stryker says, to get started here, and Lawler and Cole take him to task, that McCool should be in the Hall of Fame. And of course, Lawler and Cole are acting like that's ridiculous. And then, Stryker's arguing that McCool is better than Wendy Richter or Leilani Kai. And of course, neither one of them are in the Hall of Fame either. So not a starring moment here for Matt Stryker. The match sort of is what it is for me. I thought both of the ladies were working hard, but women's wrestling's come a long way. And this one doesn't look as good in hindsight. What say you?
Well, it's changed a lot, but both ladies are great athletes. You know what I think about Mickie.
Sure.
I think she's one of the best all time. And Michelle, great athlete, Florida State background, outstanding softball player, great, always in amazing condition. But she was just getting started. I mean, come on, she was just getting started. Is it on today's level? Well, no, it's not on today's level, because these women didn't get the same training. They didn't have the same dancing partners. There's no reason for any female in wrestling now to not be great and not have a chance to be good, because that if you're good enough, you can headline major events, hence WrestleMania. That's Ronda Rousey. Okay, wait a minute. I think Ronda Rousey is still a woman. And I think she represented and brought her gender into the main event slot at WrestleMania, but not a cappella, obviously. The Becky Lynches of the world and the Charlottes of the world and all these other ladies, they had a lot to do with that as well. They just were a different place, different time, but it wasn't a bad match whatsoever. They didn't embarrass anybody. It just was a cold match, to steal a wrestling term.
Next up, we've got a tables match for the WWE title. John Cena is going to be defending against Sheamus, and Sheamus gets the win, 16 minutes and 19 seconds. And now he's your champ, 3 1/4 star. Meltzer would say, After Sheamus left the ring, Cena got up and did the spot where he's looking for applause. He got some, but he got even more boos than applause, even after losing the title. Either way, crowd was way into the match as much as anything else on the show. What'd you think here? Sheamus getting anointed with a big title win over John Cena.
That's why you have matches like these, gimmick matches like the tables match. Cena didn't lose by pinfall or submission, the traditional ways of losing a wrestling match and losing a title. It was looked at as this will protect the champion, which I think is one of the biggest crocks of crap there ever was. Protect this guy, protect that guy. If you're not good enough to lose by pinfall or submission, if you can't figure it out, then you need to really go get some more seasoning. You need to get out of the national spotlight here, the global spotlight. Cena can do that, but they didn't have the confidence that John could do it. Hence, this is the less of the evils. So you make a champion in a gimmick match over your top guy, or certainly one of your top guys, soon to be the top guy, and you do it in a discounted way, like you had a coupon. I just don't see it's just you see it coming from a mile away. I like Sheamus. I know he's coming back. He's taking some time off, probably a smart deal, because he was on the verge of being way overexposed, whether it be tags or singles. But he's a very talented guy, tough guy. I like him a lot. But I just think that how he won that title is a little discounted. I just didn't think, I thought it could have been done better and made him a better champion. Because look, at the end of the day, the chasing babyface will prevail. And I just don't think, I'm not buying into this. Well, we can't beat him. Why? Since when? Are we back in the 1940s? 60s? Okay, we're back in the 80s. It's all passé. People forget and forgive, and if you're a good enough talent, you should be able to figure a way out to lose without it, quote unquote, killing you and destroying your push. You can't destroy your goddamn push, folks. Just can't do it. Can't lose. It's crazy. It's absolutely laughable.
Let's talk about Sheamus for a minute here. Why do you think Vince took such a liking to him so quickly? It feels like he debuts with a huge push, and you always sort of want to get into Vince's mind a little bit. Why does he get the push that maybe a McIntyre doesn't, or whatever?
He's Irish, Conrad.
There we go.
He's Irish. Not there's anything wrong with that. One of my favorite Philly's Irish. The man, Becky Lynch, is Irish. My writing partner, Paul O'Brien, is Irish. I got a lot of respect for the Irish. And Vince is Irish, by the way. So I think that part broke the ice. Sheamus always had an overwhelming work ethic. He was an amazing warrior in the weight room. Great training, dieting. He was dedicated. Still is, I'm sure. But I always had a lot of time for that kid, and a good kid. He's a good kid, good raising. He has good family. He's solid. I'm sure that would have counted more for me than the Irish part, but I think the Irish got him into the dough. And once he got into the dough, he made his time. Good for him.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about our next match. It's a world title match, and it's a chairs match. This time it's Undertaker and Batista. They have 13 minutes and 14 seconds. Undertaker retains. The chairs match concept is interesting, especially in 2009. Meltzer would say the whole chairs match concept is difficult, but they didn't overdo the chair shots or do any brutal headshots with the chair. And a few months ago, the match would have been built up by at least 2 sick chair shots. I do think that's worth mentioning. A chairs match here, when we're starting to get more of an understanding about C2E and head trauma. So you can't really do the crazy chair shots that you've done in the past, which is a good thing. But man, you really make it difficult for your talent to figure out how to put together a compelling chairs match once a precedent's been set that we're supposed to whack each other over the head, but we probably shouldn't do that now.
Absolutely. So you might wonder, why was this match booked?
Right.
Because it fit into the TLC _C theme. Again, another proof, Your Honor, that we should not have booked the card this way. Look, Undertaker and Batista in a world title match doesn't need a gimmick.
Right.
Stop it. But to fit the whole theme, and so it can be slid softly under the tree, all nice and gift wrapped, was the mandate. So didn't like it. I thought the match was not representative of what both talents could bring, and I think that they were both limited a great deal because they were forced to use chairs. Not that they had the option and it worked in because it fit well in the storyline. You had to use a chair, and it was an unnecessary evil by far. You just can't convince me that people would not have been just as interested in that world title match without chairs as they were with chairs.
Something else I've wanted to ask about is there's a spot in this match where Batista's going to deliver a low blow and then a chair shot and then gets the pin. It feels like he's your new world champion. And then Teddy Long comes out and says, while the chair shot was legal, the low blow was not. He's not going to let the title change hands that way. So he orders the match to continue. Of course, Undertaker immediately gets the win. So it is sort of a weird little dusty finish thing, for lack of a better phrase. But I guess what I struggle with is this is very inconsistent. We've seen, I can't tell you how many titles change hands after one of the guys delivers a low blow and it's not restarted. I mean, is there any thought to some sort of continuity or consistency here, or clearly just, hey, fuck it, they won't remember, let's just do it?
Yeah, I think more the latter. Again, trying to work around the chairs and trying to quote unquote protect somebody. I just don't believe in that the talents protect themselves. And again, the mechanics of getting to the pinfall is up to one's creativity and their skill set. There's no doubt in my mind that both Undertaker and Dave Batista, who, by the way, congratulations for being named to go in the WWE Hall of Fame this spring, very deserving. He was in that magical class, man. Cena, Batista, Lesnar, Randy, Shelton. Nice class. Went to OVW. That'd have been a hell of a territory back in his day, wouldn't it? Those five guys.
Yeah.
But I just think that, again, they're saddled with a chair dilemma, and the overwhelming mind, and sometimes that's the boys. The boys love to get in the head of another talent and say, well, how are they protecting you?
Right.
How are they protecting you? How about this? How are you protecting you? How are you going to strategize a 3 count, which takes 3 seconds, by the by, and have a productive and a entertaining match? That's the question. So, you can't depend on the producers or the coaches or the agents or whatever they're called today to solve all your issues. That's your deal, because they're not going to be in there with you. So I thought that was a very misbooked match in hindsight. It should have been a classic, but the chairs dropped it down to where even a connoisseur of main event level matches like Dave Meltzer gave it 2.5 stars. Should have been a 3 or 4 star match at least.
Let's talk about the low blow here, because I do feel like when it comes to low blows, we're sort of experts here on the show. Jingle balls to the walls, fellas. Listen up. Untrimmed pubes are a thing of the past. It's time to gear up and get yourself the gift of shaving this holiday season. Of course, we're talking about the Manscaped Perfect Package 2.0. And that's why this revolutionary company, Manscaped, has redesigned the electric trimmer to make sure that, well, the errant story in your past stays there in the rearview mirror. Nobody wants to nick or snag their nuts. And that's why the Lawnmower 2.0 has proprietary skin safe technology. It won't allow that. It's also waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. We should mention that the Lawnmower 2.0, it's included in the Perfect Package 2.0, which makes for the perfect gift this holiday season. It has literally everything you need to keep trimmed, cut free, and smelling nice down there. And listen, don't use the same trimmer you use on your face that you use on your balls. Dude, you know that's nasty. By the way, this Perfect Package 2.0, it's also got the Crop Preserver, which is an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer. You already put deodorant on your armpits. Why aren't you putting deodorant on the smelliest part of your body? And yes, I'm talking to you. Your balls stink too. Speaking of sweaty and stinky balls, I'm thankful for their Crop Reviver. This product, along with the Crop Preserver, keeps your balls from sweating, smelling, and sticking. And by the way, these products smell good. Their manly scent is attractive and will help set the mood, if you know what I mean. The perfect package also comes with a pair of Manscaped boxer briefs that'll keep your junk feeling fresh all day. So 'tis the season to Manscaped. So get yourself, your dad, your brother, and the friends the best gift of all, the Manscaped Perfect Package 2.0. We can get you 20% off plus free shipping when you use our promo code JR at manscaped.com. That's right. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code JR at manscaped.com. One more time. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use that promo code JR. Clean up your nuts and make Santa proud this year. Your balls will thank you.
Great balls will not be on fire. They'll be wonderfully groomed. And quite frankly, folks, we laugh about this because of the nature of the product. It works very, very well, and it's needed. I mean, we don't even think of these things, but I can tell you that it is an amazing idea. When Conrad first told me about the Manscaped was going to be one of our sponsors, they sent me the kit, and I was a little reluctant, but then I used it, and then I became very willing to do it again. So now it's a part of my grooming regimen. And let me tell you something, folks. Seriously, if you order this product for a holiday, for a stocking stuffer type thing, or whatever you want to say, you will not gift any more entertaining, conversation enticing gift all year. People are going to laugh, they're going to chuckle, but they're going to be curious, and then they're going to see, if the person's receiving it, that it works. So check it out, have some fun with it. But at the end of the day, it's very, very usable. It's very sensible, and it just is a winner. Manscaped.com is the place to go. And look, free shipping. Order now or order in a hurry. Get them all in time for the holidays.
Yeah, why not? And use that promo code JR. Save yourself some loot and get some free shipping. And let's get going to the next match here. It's Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston. Before the match even starts, Ted DiBiase and Cody Rhodes are suited up to tease there's going to be a run in, and they confront Kingston. He insults them, calls them carrier pigeons. And, eventually you can imagine that this is all going to come to a head. We've got 2 3/4 stars here for the match. Randy Orton gets the win, 13 minutes and 11 seconds. Meltzer would say crowd was dead for this match, a far cry from a month ago when this was the hottest feud the company had in a long time. It almost took talent to have a feud where people weren't interested before they even got to the first pay-per-view match. Meltzer would continue to say the booking of this program from when it got hot to the finish of this match was mind blowing. A lot of folks, sort of talked about this angle very recently with Randy Orton and Kofi Kingston, that it felt like they dropped the ball back in 2009 with this. So people were glad to see it dusted off. What'd you think here?
Well, I thought that it was a huge fumble in the red zone. Those guys, if this followed the incident they had in the Garden, if I remember correctly. I felt there was magic in the Garden interaction between Randy and Kofi. I thought, boy, you can build something on this. If somebody is listening and they are objective, then I think that it would be a no-brainer. This is a great idea. These guys got chemistry, and I just thought, boy, I can't believe they're just backdooring this thing. So you have to figure out this, or address this. Is it because, it's got to be because, Conrad, I think that the company didn't have the total confidence in the pairing.
Right.
What else could it be?
Nothing. I can't think of another reason not to go with it.
Yeah. And so is that because Randy was a little bit of a wild child? Or
did Vince just not see Kofi as a top guy?
I think that was the other thing I was going to say. So, and I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, over time, if that were applicable, then it's changed because Kofi got his run as a champion, and I thought he did a good job. I always thought, and I think Kofi responded to me on social media one time, and I felt bad about it. I should have reached out to him. I still should. Where I mentioned that I want the champion to be a little bit more serious, because I thought as the WWE champion, or that Kofi should have stepped away from, or Universal champion, whichever one he was, that he should have stepped away from a little bit, distanced himself a little bit from his partners, and been a little bit more serious. That's just me. That's just an opinion. It's not knocking Kofi. Kofi did what he's produced to do. Kofi Kingston's an amazing, amazing athlete, and now where is he? So how come he's there? Randy Orton's a Hall of Famer. Hey, Kofi will be in the Hall of Fame Sunday.
Sure.
Kofi needs another run, but I got all the faith and the confidence in Kofi that you could have. I really do. And I hope WWE really realizes what they have in this young man. I think they do. They should by now. And of course, then Randy Orton's one of the best ever. Randy's one of the more maturing influences. That's a scary thought, huh? In WWE right now. I love Randy Orton. I loved his attitude back in the OVW days. He was edgy. He was cocky. And, it wasn't easy for when I said, I'm going to hire Bob Orton's son to Vince. And what's he been doing? Well, he's been in the service. Oh, okay. So, I didn't say he had issues leaving the service, but because Vince would not have liked that. And he did. When he found out, he didn't like it. But we already had him signed, so let's give him a chance. Everybody, I said, Vince, you said it many times yourself. Everybody deserves a second chance, JR, even me and you. We've had a bunch of them. That's God's truth. So I'm a big fan of Randy Orton and what he's doing. But that was just think about this. 2009. That was over a decade ago.
Right. And here we are still
wondering, well, what's next for these guys?
Right.
I still watch WWE television. I watch all kinds of wrestling. I watched the Ring of Honor pay-per-view this week. I thought it was good. But I watch a lot of wrestling. You know why? I'm a wrestling fan, and I'm by myself. So I have control of the remote. And I don't know. It's just funny how we go all these years later, and we're still asking the same questions about two talents that should be perennially on the top of the card every time there's an opportunity, and they're not.
I got to ask, I know we don't really talk about current stuff a lot, but PCO, Ring of Honor World Champ, what'd you think?
Happy for him. Carl's a nice guy, really is a nice guy. He got crapped on a little bit at WWE too. I can't remember. He got some controversy with somebody. I don't remember.
Shawn Michaels, the Click.
Oh, was that who it was?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I forget some of that stuff as time goes on. Those are things like that you just don't want to pack in your carry-on and take with you. So I remember it now. So Carl didn't get the greatest of shakes when he was there. For a guy to overcome his handicap, being blind in one eye, you can only imagine, folks, there's not a lot of margin for error when you're blind in one eye and you're out there working your ass off and wrestling because an inadvertent eye poke and you're blind.
Yep.
Think of that. All for the booking and to maintain your position on the card. So I'm happy for them. And I hope Ring of Honor, I hope they have great success going forward. We all need to cheer on every wrestling promotion because they have the same men and women doing the same things that AEW does, that WWE does, and so forth. Everybody should be given the support to make a living and enjoy their life in the wrestling business, just like I have and like you are now, Conrad. Who'd have thunk this shit? About you a few years ago, or me when I was a kid, having a 40-year career in the wrestling business. Nobody. But we got to live that dream because nobody tied us down and held us back. And so I'm glad Carl's got the chance. I applaud Ring of Honor for giving him that opportunity, and he can work. He's a good worker and a nice guy. So the success that PCO has is well deserved. To put it that way. And I have a lot of time for Carl.
I've never had a conversation about this with anybody, but I do think it's interesting to think in an alternate universe, what a PCO and AEW would have looked like. Without ever having a conversation at all, it feels like the Young Bucks would have liked a PCO type character running around on TNT, but either way, Ring of Honor World Champ, congratulations to PCO. And let's talk about our big match here on the pay-per-view TLC 2009. Triple H and Shawn Michaels going to be taking on Chris Jericho and Big Show. the tag titles are going to be in a TLC match, and this is your main event, not the actual world titles, but the tag titles here. They get plenty of time, 22 minutes, 32 seconds. Meltzer, he dug it. He gave it 3.5 stars and says the crowd was definitely into the idea that winning the tag titles was a big deal. So I guess, no debate here. You got a lot of star power. This goes on last. Do you think they made the right call with the tag belts being on last?
I think so, because it was pure TLC. Number one, it's why it should have been the only gimmick match on the card. Those guys worked around the fact that we'd already seen a tables match, we'd already seen a chairs match, we'd already seen a ladders match, and now we get them all in one. There's a lot of duplicity. It makes it challenging for the talents to come up with unique things to do that will re-engage the audience after watching wrestling for several hours and being invested so much time, having so much time invested in packing your kids up or your buddies or driving to the arena and parking and all that good stuff. It's a long day, and you're at the end of that long event, and now you're challenged your very, very top guys to come up with something different to make their match unique. It's just hard to do. But the star power in that match was pretty remarkable. Big Show was hot at that time, was being utilized a great deal. Jericho was Jericho. Jericho never got into a match where he was second best, and he still isn't, by the way, in my opinion. I'm biased, yes. But then you had Shawn and Hunter, and they were phenomenal. They had amazingly natural chemistry. They liked each other. And I thought those guys had a hell of a match, but I would have ended that match, quite frankly, because, again, can you imagine ending the show with Taker and Batista in a chair match?
Right.
It wouldn't have worked. Now, could you imagine ending the show with Taker and Batista in a world title match? Yeah, you could, but not when you bastardize it with a chair, because it's part of the theme. So, but I thought it was a good match, good outing. I never saw Shawn and Hunter have a bad tag team match. I never saw them have a bad match with each other or as partners. And, and Jericho added a lot of energy to Big Show's game. Jericho was that chirping, barking dog, and you get Big Show, the big giant of a human being, and Jericho acting like he was that size as well. It was great stuff. So I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it again. Wish I could have called it, but it wasn't in the cards that time. But it was a real good show closure. They knew what they were doing. They sent the crowd home happy. We had new champions, and they had a good match while they were doing it.
What did you think of this era of Hunter and Shawn together?
Liked them because of what I just said. They didn't have bad performances. Could they be pains in the ass at times and use their influence and their power and their relationship with Vince? Yeah, they could have. And here's the thing, folks. Well, I knew that was going to happen. Here's the deal. It's not anything unlike any other talent on the roster would have done if given the same opportunity. And those two guys, obviously Vince had a vested interest in both guys. Vince always thought that a young Vince McMahon reminded him of a young Shawn Michaels, kind of defiant, impetuous, a little cantankerous at times, ornery, whatever. And then of course Hunter kind of had that family in, and so they capitalized on that relationship. And some people did not like that because they couldn't capitalize on a relationship. So try harder, is all I can say. For my situation, they did not disrupt the locker room to any degree that the fans would like to believe that they did. And secondly, as far as the fans are concerned, we provided them a match that was always going to deliver. And their tag matches always delivered, including this one. So I had no issues with it at all because at the end of the day, what's important is making our fans happy. And I always thought that Shawn and Hunter never to deliver on doing that.
Well, let's wrap it up. What did you think of the pay-per-view overall, scale of 1 to 10?
Well, it went in never going to be a 10 because of the concept. I would say because of the efforts of the last match especially, and the work ethic of the talents trying to work around some very restrictive, inanimate objects. The show was probably about a 6 or a 7. it was. I don't think I'd ask for my money back, but it didn't move me when I watched it back again. I watched it on TV the first time. I don't think I was even there. Where was it? Where do we have that at?
San Antonio.
San Antonio. I'm not sure I was there. I don't think I was there. So, but it didn't matter. I thought it was solid, Conrad, 6 or 7.
Well, somewhere where I know you were there. It's Starrcade 88, and we're getting there next week. Of course, that show went down on December 26, 1988, and you'll be tuning in with us on December 26, but this time it'll be 2019. The tagline for the show is True Grit. Your main event for the World's Heavyweight Championship is Lex Luger challenging the champ Ric Flair. We've also got the tag titles on the line with the Road Warriors defending against Dusty Rhodes, who they just stabbed with a spike, and Sting. We've also got the U.S. title on the line with Bam Bam Bigelow and Barry Windham. The television title is up for grabs with Mike Rotunda and Rick Steiner. We've got the Russian Assassins in there with JYD and Ivan Koloff. The Midnight Express versus the original Midnight Express with Cornette and Dangerous Lee in the corners. And then, of course, to get us started for the United States tag titles, Kevin Sullivan and Dr. Death taking on the Fantastics, Bobby Fulton and Tommy Rogers. This is a much different show than the one we talked about today. It's on tap for next week, Starrcade 88. What are you looking forward to breaking down the most, Jim?
Well, I'll tell you, this card was loaded with talent. Mentioning those names you just mentioned certainly bring that to mind. I will tell you that, and I gave this show we talked about today, the TLC 2009, a 6 or 7. It was not as good a show as the one we're going to talk about next week, the 88 Bash. Really good, I thought. The Battle of the Midnights was excellent. Flair was in rare form, kind of knowing he was getting his blow off with Luger. I thought it was a good, solid show. We kind of tried to make it feel big. I know Magnum TA and Tony Schiavone were the hosts, and Bob Caudle and I, which I always loved to go back and listen to Bob and his work on our shows, and working with me was just amazing. Made me better. Being around Bob Caudle made me a better man, be honest with you. So, because he wasn't a wrestle speak, he wasn't always paranoid or looking over his shoulder, what's coming next. I just love Bob, still do. God bless him. So I think people are going to like the show, Conrad. And it's going to be a fun thing. And, we're getting a lot of good feedback on things you and I are doing. We're going to go to, I mentioned on, during our breaks where we were only on the UK side of the dial, for example, or not only the UK, I've been mentioning the fact that we're going to be with Kenny McIntosh and his crew. I'm looking forward to that coming up in February. Conrad and I doing our first transatlantic shows, 3 of them in a row, London, Manchester, and Glasgow. And Conrad, that's going to be a lot of fun. Inside the Ropes has all your information. Go to their website and check it out. We're going to do some fun, have some fun over there. Because, Conrad didn't have this rule. I used to have, I'm kidding. Conrad's wedding license is only good in domestic.
Oh my gosh. Listen to you. We are excited to be there. February 7th we'll be in London, February 8th in Manchester, February 9th in Glasgow. You got to go check it out. People are really excited that we're going to be making the trip. And then, what's funny is just a couple of days before that, you and I will be here at Stand Up Live right after the AEW show in Huntsville. Of course, that's February 5th. Tickets are on sale now for that one at supershowlive.com. Man, you and I, we're going to live together for like a week. You think we'll be sick of each other at the end?
We'll be all right. We'll be good because we have too much in common. We like to sleep and eat. I tell you, I got this plan. Thanks to Tony Khan, I got this plan I'm pulling together. Conrad, December 28th, it's the Oklahoma meeting with LSU, right?
That's right.
And I'm going, that's Saturday afternoon, December 28th. I'm going to make that game. Everything goes according to Hoyle. Then I'm going to fly to Jacksonville and go as a guest of the Khan family to the Jaguars game on Sunday. Then I'm going to do media on Monday. Then on Tuesday's New Year's Eve, which we'll have a little get together with our team and our production meeting. And then on January 1, we'll be back on live TV with our big show from Jacksonville at the amphitheater, Daly's place, outdoors. So that should be interesting. I just hope it's nice and warm that night, which is probably 50 or 60 degrees. So I got a big football weekend, and I may stay over after the January 1st Raw and go to the Gator Bowl. Why not? What else am I going to do, right? My birthday's January 3rd, so I'm thinking I'm going to have like this 4-day self-proclaimed, don't break your arm patting yourself on the back birthday celebration. You should join me.
Oh, listen, I was going to say, I can help bring some entertainment and make sure that you have a lot of laughs.
You are a funny guy.
We appreciate
so
you guys.
Life is good, folks. And we appreciate you guys listening to us too. Our advertisers are getting great results. Thanks to you folks. That's how we live here. If you don't get a hold of those advertisers and use what we believe to be good products when you need them or you want them, that's how we win. And so we're all about winning here, and we appreciate you guys' support. It means a hell of a lot, especially here at the holiday season for many of us.
That's exactly right. Hope everybody is ready for Christmas. We'll be back with you next week. The day after Christmas, we're going to break down Starrcade 88. Tell a friend, leave a 5-star review. If you think we've earned it, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next Thursday and every Thursday right here on Grillin' JR, only on Westwood One. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.